Grazie. Okay. First of all, the session was in English. Do we have any English people? Can you raise a hand? Okay? Okay, we'll keep in English. No worries. Thank you. The question can be in Italian if you want, or if there is something that you maybe you want to be repeated, no problem with that. So game thinking, I know the title after lunch created a lot of expectation, and after 2 days, I don't know if some of you were here yesterday. So yesterday we talked about values, and we talked about process. This morning I saw in a lot of presentation risk management, and then a lot of circle, right? Feedback cycle. It will be like Scrum, and then design thinking. This session is focused on something different. It's focused on the human. This is what I call the ergonomic organization. So this means when we create an organization, now the big topics shall be sustainable, shall be fast and agile. Sustainability in some way is connected also to human sustainability, and that's why also ergonomic. So the way we design a lot for efficiency, but we focus less on comfort of the person. And one way to achieve this ergonomic quality, the way I'm proposing it is via game thinking. So game thinking, actually I'm not like invented the term, because there is a book about game thinking, and the book is connected between agile, UX, system thinking, and game design together, and in the center is game thinking. The book focuses on some concept and then move to processes. My goal here is a different type of meaning for game thinking, is using game design techniques to improve our organization design. So as he was saying, I have really a different path to. I'm now innovation manager, but the way I came here was engineering, game design, coding, Scrum Master, product ownership, manager. Really, it was very, very hard to come here. So what I'm showing here is also the journey I have. So if you see something different, you have maybe a different framework. This is my perception. This is how I adapted it to make it useful and actionable for me. Last thing before starting the journey is game thinking is not a serious game, and it's not gamification. So serious gaming is using the games to, in some way, teach something, to do serious stuff. Gamification is more connected. If you see different type of gamification, is badges, but also other like social pressure. It depends on the level you want. This is a different concept, because maybe you see less playing, but it's more using techniques from game designer to actually design an organization. Let's start the journey, okay? So the first one, as usual, is the player. And if I think about the player, you have to think about all the different types of player, all the different colors. And if you want to do a parallelism, the player is like our employee. It's not our customer, but our employee, so internal. We look inside now. Okay, motivation, the first aspect I want to see. In this talk, the goal of this talk is giving you there are different topics in game design. Everything is very connected and fuzzy. Today we just do a little like watching the keyhole and see aspects. One of these, the player, was motivation, the first one. So every time we talk about motivation, or I talk as an agile coach, motivation is like good or bad, right? Every time we talk about motivation, it's like extrinsic motivation is bad. Intrinsic motivation is good. Extrinsic, I force you or I invite you to do something. Intrinsic is something that you really want. In game design, actually, and the reality is a bit different. So it's a continuum. You have from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. The first one is control mechanics. So you have the really external motivators. If you do something, you get a bonus. You get a reward. And this is where, when you play in games, I'm sure you did. I was a core gamer. Now is a bit different. For you, for example, playing for, let's say, tournament. I don't know. I was a serious player in Warcraft 3. So for me, after like 10,000 games, the last one is really is more a job. So you really play to be higher in the leaderboard more than actually playing, having fun. So this is like the external, and this is probably like bad because it doesn't give you energy. This drains energy from you. But then we start becoming, we start going on the good side. After external is the continuum, you go in introjected. Introjected is something different. So you have mechanics where you create in your system mechanics that can give you pressure. An example can be social pressure. Usually in game studies, it studies the behavior in World of Warcraft for the ride at the end. I'll give you an example. So it's like 1 a.m., you played for 3 hours, you're really tired, you want to go to sleep, but there is someone calling you and they tell you, hey, we need a tank, and you're maybe a tank. We need to stay here for another 2 hours, but it's fast. We need you. So the pressure you receive is not because you play, not because you're happy to play, it's not because it's fun, or it's because it's engaged, but because there is a guild of people relying on you, they're pressing you on it. So you have a type of social pressure. Another mechanics that is a bit tricky on the social one is also when you have items like choices like, oh, do you want to, there is a puppy that needs a friend. Please send this puppy to your friend that is not part of the game so you can connect. And you have two choices. Yes, I want to save the puppy. No. This type is not social, maybe, but it's emotional. Because actually what you're doing is like killing the puppy. So it's something I really don't want to do. So every time you feel, you recognize also this in organization. Every time in your job, you enter in a conversation and say, and think about, should I, could I? So when you say the should, maybe it's pressure mechanics. Moving toward the good one, the next one is identified. So you see something that is not originating for you, doesn't come for you, but is part of the path to reach your goal. When you study in university to become someone, to become, doctor, engineer, CTO, you have your goal and you see a meaningful step, a meaningful connection to your goal in an activity that you really don't like. You study for hours, you do an exam. That's why also in organization, when you focus on the explain to people the reason why they are doing something, add meaning to the action, it's not just, usually we say, we'll be on the same page. Everyone is focused. It's not about focus. It's also about energy that people may have during the work. And then we have the other step, getting closer and closer to the good part. Integrated. So we added meaning. We have maybe some social connection, but then we have also empathy and choice. So empathy mechanic means someone or something that actually share my feeling. In games, you saw this in Fable 2, if you ever played. So there is a dog that actually helps you and is concerned about you. Or maybe when you go with your player, you see people interacting with you, thinking about you tired or not. So having this type of empathy, your manager that comes to you and tell you, hey, I know it sucks, but it's part of the job, it's connected with this meeting, it's very important, I know how you're feeling, I may help you. And give you a choice. Do you have a different type of time where you can do? Do you have a different type of activity you can do to achieve the same goal? That choice and that empathy can help you add it to the meeting to be more motivated during the execution. And because I am a fan of the dark side, motivation, don't confuse motivation only with the good part. You can be better. Motivation is also, people move also when they see the danger. So danger can be really a good motivator. And this means also in your organization what you can do. When yesterday we were discussing how we can convince someone to do something. How can I interact with him to understand how I can, say we need to change. Usually is, coming from bottom up, we need to change, we need to do something. And on the other side, say it's not true. Because maybe it doesn't see the danger. So maybe part of the effort as an agile coach, as manager, as people, is to help this person or this group of people to actually see the danger. And the danger in a company can be anything. It can be a big change in the technology, it can be a competitor. It's not really easy to see right now. For motivation, we're done. We're moving to the attitudes. So when we think about players, one schema that was really popular was the Bartle taxonomy. So he created this taxonomy for players that were playing his game, and you have people that like to act to players, so killers, people that like to act to the world, the achievers. Explorer is like interacting with the world, and socializer is interacting with people. This is one of many taxonomy you can use for player types. The question is, in this company, in your team, are you creating using mechanics to help, to improve, or to move a player in a direction according to his attitudes? For example, killers, if you can compete, if you can actually steal, compare to each other, you are moving to a killer direction. Achievers is more about personalizing. You can actually personalize your workplace, your desk, your board, if you're agile. You can accumulate points, you can achieve goals. Explorer, there are ones that like to browse more opportunities. I want to see also that framework. I want to see also that technology. I want to see also that product. And socializer is, can I give feedback to someone? Can I make partnership with someone? What I don't think, when you see this framework, you don't think like, okay, I'm a killer, I'm a socializer. It doesn't work like that. So usually it's like an attitude where you start playing something. So sometimes you play and your attitude is more connected to socializers. Sometimes you like to be more achievers. Player. The first thing about player is the magic circle. When you think about game design, probably the first thing that you learn is the famous magic circle. So it's the difference, I don't know how to explain that, so that probably is the best definition I could give you, is the special significance that transforms kicking a ball in a net into scoring a goal. Is a different meaning. And the magic circle, inside the magic circle, things are different. And your role are also different. And the good thing about the magic circle, if it works, you have the status called suspension of disbelief, where you are in a different state. It's not reality. You're really totally immersed, and you are actually living a different type of experience. So what you want after you create this magic circle, you have to protect it. One protection is flow. I know flow is very used also in agile community. I think it's very well accepted after the book, after the studies. So flow is, you have this graph. You have difficulty on one side. You have skill, predictability on the other axis. And it's the state between boredom and anxiety. So what it means is you want to improve your skill. You want challenge that is somewhat connected to your skills, and you have the ability to move here and say, learn and be more, improve your skill, or do some challenge so you move up. The new part I wanted to include is the presence. So presence is something that now is getting more traction, because now with augmented reality and virtual reality is becoming very, very important. What's presence? Is the feeling of being right there, right now, without the perception of the technology. If you think about, I don't know if you ever read gaming, I would say blogs or articles. Usually it's called immersion. So immersion, imagine immersion like a donut, and presence is inside immersion. So immersion is protecting your presence. Also for presence, I try to do a graph about it. This graph is an adaptation from a work from a researcher, Järvinen. And if I divide the player and the world, the inward, so looking inside, outward, looking outside, you have the self-presence. So who I am, what do I own, how do I occupy space, how do I express my feelings. In a game, you can imagine what does it mean. This is like an avatar. How do I express feeling with my avatar, who I am, the background, and how I occupy space can be like how I move. In an organization, this is something that we usually maybe forget about the self, but can be important, especially when who I am, you can translate it as who do you pretend to be? When you talk to your manager, to your boss, to your friend, sysadmin, who does he pretend to be? Because, for example, I don't know in your experience, my experience, usually manager doesn't want to fail, to show weakness. So it's very hard, because in their role, with the mask of the manager, they pretend to be in a different way maybe of what they are. And it's important that we keep care of this. On the player outward, so you are still on the player side, you have also to keep in consideration the physical is more interactive. So how do you leave a mark in the world? So I'm doing something. How do I leave a mark in the world with what I'm doing? With coding is easier. If someone already experienced the shift of being from developer to manager to director, is probably less and less connected to your product. So it's very hard to understand how you can leave a mark in the world for you. How do I move inside my space? And how do I exert my agency? So how can I actually do actions? And the second part, we can go maybe faster on this, is social and cultural. So social is about how I'm connected with other people, and is how do I express myself with them? How do I relate to them? So is hierarchical, is leadership, how there is a role conversation. And cultural is more connected with what's meaningful for me, what's sacred or not, what can I aspire in this culture. I know here, I'm really in the game design world. Let's move a bit in the organization world. How can you use this? So first of all, the first use, very common, can be remote team. So if you have a remote team, try to understand their presence inside your organization. So what does it mean is, Are they able to express themselves? Are they able to express their feeling? Are they able to relate to you? Are they able to leave a mark in the world? Usually when I see for remote teams, when we have this conversation on quality of connections, quality of the tools, quality of the we say discipline inside meeting, usually they kill this presence, and the conversation is more about money to spend, respect of, yeah, but we can interact with that, we can call them. Or usually when you have someone remote, your thinking is about, okay, we can do a stand-up, we can do 2 stand-up, we can do a sync, we can do a remote planning. This is not exactly how it works. That won't give you the job part, give you the execution. They can give you the status update, but they cannot express everything here. So if you have some experience with remote, also like meeting together, all this type of workshop is I think is very important. If you don't think about remote team, you can think from HR perspective. From HR perspective, caring about social and cultural is about caring of the conversation we were having yesterday about people, roles, description, in alignment with the culture. The game. Okay, I would like to stop a second here. It's about presence, players. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Good? Okay, thank you. The game. So the game is, you look at the player, you look at the experience. Now look at your game. Think about your organization as a game and try to understand the mechanics, the dynamics, and the experience that they create. Usually you start thinking about the last one, and then going backward. But to change a behavior, you need to change a mechanic. And today, I'm proposing you a game that usually can be common in organization, but this is called chip taking. So chip taking happens when there are 3 or more factions that can target each other, so you're able to aim, you can able to choose your target, and you can steal chips from the target. If you think about back to some common game you may have played, if you are a board game fan, this can be a mix between Settlers of Catan, that you can actually trade a lot because you can choose your aim. Or if you're a digital fan of my age, you can be like StarCraft in free-for-all mode. So if you play that game, 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, it's still 2 factions, is an experience. When you go free-for-all, it's a totally different one. And this is funny because those are the mechanics and the dynamics that you can create with chip taking. So you have private asymmetric goals. I want something, you want something different. You can choose your target, and the players are connected in some way. I can steal from you, or I depend on you to have some success. And when there are different connections, the dynamics that they created is negotiation, bluffing, lying, backstabbing, alliance. And this is called politics in game. And this is the graph that they create on return of a skill to skill. Return to skill means I'm good at something. Let's say that we play together. So it's play like we have different faction, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we know usually in a game with a high return to skill, it means I'm good at it, I win. The winner is the best it is the most skilled. When you include politics, actually, the one who wins is the one best in bluffing, lying, and backstabbing. And the funny thing is that actually if you are good, you are the first target they will choose. I'm sure you also can have experienced this. For me, it was like in some FPS, like Quake 3. I was funny because one was free for all, and then you know that some player was better than the others. So your major option was, hey, can we like play together to kill him? After that one is removed, you start again. I wanted to show you the mechanics of chip taking with the dynamics. Also because usually in companies, if the mission and the purpose of the company is not clearly communicated, and also in the DNA of the organization, if you have different factions playing together, and those factions can steal from each other, and stealing means I can ask for budget and steal from you. I can ask for people and steal from you. If you let these dynamics happen, those layer of people are the one that will succeed in your organization, the one that bluff, the one that negotiate, the one that better in a line, and the skill doesn't matter anymore. The skill is later, and maybe you're first skilled, actually you'll be the first target in maybe, I don't know, execution, delivery. Designer perspective. Experience is king, or queen. I really didn't think about it. So when I think about experience, it's a message of, usually when you design a process, I see people designing, it's like, how long is this iteration? Do I need to include iteration or go flowing? Oh, I can roll this budget or not. I can organize the team in this way or the others. Before this step, I think is important, if you are like game designing, for sure is important, you think about the experience that you want to create in your team. The rule, for example, I use is, for me, is every role should be unstoppable. This is something that I use as a rule when I try to design a team. Every role, it doesn't matter if I have a description or not, I don't care about it, should feel unstoppable. Every QE, every DevOps, developer, everyone should have this feeling. And that's about feeling, thinking, hearing, and seeing. It's not about the structure. The structure comes after. Summary of the conversation we had today. So for the players, we saw motivation, taxonomy for masks. For the experience, flow, presence. For the game, we saw chip taking. In that way, you think about game taxonomy, game dynamics. For the game designer, the goal of thinking about the experience first and then design the rest, instead of designing the rest and then thinking about what happens. As you can see, I left some time for questions. They can be in Italian, and I translate. Any questions so far?
Don't you think that politics should be also viewed as a skill?
Yes. So the question is, don't you think that politics can be seen as a skill? Yes, it can be. There are games that are designed to be political. The important part is that the progress should be connected with that. I'll give you an example. So the example of Settlers of Catan, in some way, the core gameplay is negotiating with people. So that one is good, is your core skill. You go there and you negotiate with people. If you think about also board game Bang, I don't know if you ever played Bang. So Bang is about, I can target, I can like fire to you and target you. If you've seen, you cannot, when you play with multiple people, you cannot play everyone. You can play only the one near you, on the right, on the left. That one is also decreasing the connection and decreasing the level of politics that you can create. Because in that way, every player cannot really ally on just one target. But that one, core different mechanics, core different experience, and that one can be a danger in Bang. Magic, the Gathering is the same. So you can only target adjacent players. Thank you. Other questions? No? Oh, wow. Then I'll give you some references. Quanto abbiamo? References, because as I told you, the goal for me was to give you, an overview. I was not going in depth. I was going more on the broad side and give you different type of perspective. So the first book, Games Without Frontiers, Järvinen. This is a good article, like Designing for Engagement, Sustained Satisfaction. Rigsby presented like in September about motivation. Self-determination theory is like the bottom of everything, psychology. Gamma Sutra is a good blog where you can read a lot of about game articles, and all this science is about post-mortem and very empiric, so you can learn a lot there. Fabbricatore, game mechanics, and this is coming from activity theory, so it's more connected where you have to meaning making, so you have to add meaning to something, and you want to create a system of mechanics to pursue that meaning, their meaning.
May I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
It came to me later. So, you've been describing how game works and how that can be applied to in organization design.
Mm-hmm.
But you speak to different people when you try to transform an organization and make people act differently as a players and creating them a different experience. They are playing. So how can you transform a player in a game designer?
Oh, wait.
He's doing the same thing at the same moment.
So wait, I'm not, maybe, okay, the question is, when you talk to people in the organization, they actually players. How can you transform those players in game designer? So the goal is not transforming them. I want them to still be players. But I think if you are a transformation manager, if you are a Scrum Master, if you are an Agile coach, that one for me is the game designer.
But you're a player too.
In some way, I think if you're good, you are a bit outside of the system.
Okay, so you have to go outside of the game, see the game
From
with different
yes.
eyes, and become a game designer, and
Yes.
try to act on the system like you were the one designing the game.
Yes, I'll give you an example. Okay, so the feedback was, so you have to do a step back as for example, Scrum Master. Do a step back, look at the game system, change the system, and then if you want, go back in the game. So one day I applied this. The problem was I had teams that were actually having planning that was too long, and they were delivering, creating release too big. I have two problems mainly. One was about the planning, too long, that they spend a lot of time in planning poker. So planning poker is a good game if you're a project manager. It's a good game if you're a planner. It's not a good game if you're a developer, because it doesn't rely on your core skills that are designing, developing, and releasing. So what we did, we want to rely on the core skills. So it was actually removing the Fibonacci scale and just have like 3 metrics, 0, 3, split. That's all. So you can choose between these 3. What you have as a behavior, if you include these mechanics, before you have planning poker mechanics, different estimation, different Fibonacci, the behavior, the dynamics were estimating. Now that they cannot estimate because they have to split, the behavior is splitting. Is a core mechanic that you're adding. So you're changing a behavior of the players, go a step back without explaining any rule. It's just adding one rule mechanic and say there are no more size than 0, 3, and split. And the question for you is, why not 1? Why is 0, 3, and split, and not 0, 1, and split? Why?
No
What?
estimation uses 1.
Uses 1.
No estimation.
You know what? You see, I didn't know that. Okay.
There is just 3 possible values. There is 1. Sorry for the bad word. No fucking clue. It's too fucking big.
Okay, okay. So the reason why I was not using 1 is because you cannot fight human nature, and as soon as I create a game, your first instinct will be try to break it. You will do everything possible to game the system. So including 3, for me, was a way to give you a way to break the system, not giving me 1, don't giving me 3, but then you have to choose between 2 and 1 if you want to be smaller. So I was protecting the other side, but I was giving you space in the direction that I wanted. And this is important that you think about it when you create a new mechanics. As soon as you put that, if the rule is 2, 4, and 8, they will put 3, 5, and 7. As soon as you see 3, 5, and 7, they will do 10 and 100. So be sure that you design to be hacked, and you try to leverage this. Did I answer your question about the Scrum Master going down? And for the planning, for example, we have the Whip Challenge leaderboard. So you have in your public space, visible from everyone, a challenge of work in progress items. Everyone that work in progress growing, team is growing. Team is going top, team is going top. And this is something that puts some pressure, because the social pressure is your manager is seeing it. Your boss, your team is seeing it. So you're actually competing against each other or something good, because it's whip. So you want to break, you want to split your work. So it's another way to hack a mechanic without explaining any rule, putting some pressure, so it'll be on the motivation extrinsic but still good. Killers can compete on something good, on your direction, and you can keep going. Moving ahead. Oh, bye. Change the perspective of the. Okay. Okay. So the question is, tell me if I understood well. The question is, have you ever tried to, with a game, to change the rule or better understand Scrum Master role and Product Owner role from each other to make them understand better? I didn't with this specific role. You can apply serious games, so you can actually do a game to have them bound and understand. Or I really like how the holacracy is applying the role on the role description, where you actually have a role, your domain, and your interactions with the others. So probably it's something I will explore in that direction. If I have to create something, I will create in that direction. So I will have them playing one on the other shoes, and I will probably use holacracy as in terms of that part, description of the roles, to make it more effective. Time out. Sorry about that. Thanks a lot. Last slide.